Hello, everyone. I'm Jack Fisher. Welcome to my world, and welcome to another Jack Quick Reacts. I just got back from seeing Fantastic Four First Step, so I wanted to do a quick review of it while it's still fresh, and the reactions are still processing. Now, remember, these quick reacts are not edited, so you're going to hear me stutter, you're going to hear me stammer, you might hear me repeat myself a few times. Bear with me because I'm a little energetic and restless here because this was quite an experience. Of all the MCU movies that I've seen over the years, and I've seen them all, this was the one I was probably the most nervous about. More so than Endgame, more so than Infinity War. Fantastic Four is one of those movies that has a less than stellar history. I mean, even going back to the unreleased Roger Corman version in 1994. I mean, this franchise is quite mired in all sorts of messy controversies with movie rights and underperformances. Now, I do have a soft spot for the 2005 Fantastic Four. I did enjoy Rise of the Silver Surfer, but I freely admit those movies have some serious flaws in them. I mean, the least of which is Galactus being a giant cloud. Don't want to get into that. Don't want to get too off topic into why those movies didn't work. I'm just going to come out and say right now, Fantastic Four First Steps works. This is what we've wanted in a Fantastic Four movie since the 90s. This movie doesn't feel like it tried to update the Fantastic Four. It didn't try to reinvent them. It didn't try to put them into our modern world. No, it felt like in this movie they were literally ripped from the pages of those early Fantastic Four comics from Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I mean, everything from their costumes to their appearance to the 60s retro vibe that in the world they lived in. It felt just like a pure manifestation of everything that makes the Fantastic Four great. And I know all those previous Fantastic Four movies, they had some elements, but they were lacking in so many others. This movie has pretty much everything you could want. And there's a lot to get to, but before I go any further, I want to say I'm going to try to keep the spoilers to a minimum. I'm not going to spoil too many plot points, but I'm going to have to spoil some if I'm going to give this reaction, some real value. Because what makes this Fantastic Four movie work, what makes it work better than any Fantastic Four movie we've gotten before it is it focuses on what they have always been about, which is family. It's not about just people getting superpowers. It's not just even about them being heroes. I mean, yeah, that is part of it. But at their core, at their heart, the Fantastic Four are a family. That's what really made them stand out years and years ago from other superhero stories. They were a family. They bicker like a family. They interact like a family. They get on each other's nerves like a family. And that manifests a lot in this movie. There are times when all four, Reed, Sue, Johnny, Ben, they feel kind of like, a family, that they're functional, but they have their moments when they're not so functional. They get on each other's nerves, they bust each other's chops, they annoy each other, but at the same time, they make each other better. The familial love is all there, from their family dinners to all the triumphs and failures they have. It is very much about family. That's what the Fantastic Four has always been about. That's what this movie is about. And it really leverages that family element to the utmost. But another important thing that makes this movie work, another thing that kind of sets it apart from other MCU movies, is this movie kind of was made as though the MCU didn't exist. Because this world that the Fantastic Four live in, it's not the MCU we've been following since Iron Man. There are no other heroes in this world other than the Fantastic Four. Now, it's not said outright, but it has been confirmed, externally, that this universe the Fantastic Four live in, it's not the Marvel 616 MCU universe. It's its own universe. And there's really you don't need to see a single MCU movie to understand what's going on in this movie. You don't really need to understand. You don't even need to understand any of the comics. You can go into this movie completely oblivious to what the Fantastic Four are, and this movie will literally give you everything you need to know about them. Now, it doesn't retell their origins. When this movie begins, the Fantastic Four, they're already established heroes. They're already beloved superheroes. Yeah, we get a little brief recap of their origin. It's the same origin it's been in the comics for years. They were four intrepid astronauts. They go into space on a bold mission. They get hit with cosmic radiation, and then they come back with superpowers. So that's as simple as it gets for the Fantastic Four origins. This movie doesn't dwell too much on that. In fact, within the first 5-6 minutes, you know everything you need to know about the Fantastic Four origins, and nothing much else comes from that. We learn, since they've gotten their powers, they are kind of like celebrity heroes, and they are well known all throughout the world. We see them, they've gone up against some classic Fantastic Four villains, from Mole Man, the Puppet Master, even the Wizard is mentioned. There are some very clear classic references. Like, if you've read the Fantastic Four comics, you know those references. If you even if you don't know the Fantastic Four comics, you kind of learn, they still matter. It gets the point across that, these are heroes. They have been at it for a while now, and they're very well beloved. But there's another important thing that this movie does that is something that I think that not only sets it apart, but I think it's something even the comics didn't do. Because the way the Fantastic Four operate in this world, they're not just heroes. They really are a part of a bolder vision to make the world better. Now, it's kind of like there's this trope that has been a recurring theme that has come about in comics for years and other shows for years. It's called Reed Richards is useless, because Reed Richards is supposed to be the smartest man ever. He's supposed to be the smartest man in the multiverse, and yet the world around him is as flawed as ours. You'd think someone as smart as him would actually be able to fix things. He'd be able to fix a lot of the world's problems. He'd be able to, find a way to create a better world. That's one that's less chaotic, and it still needs heroes, but it feels more coherent. Like, that never manifests in the comics. It never manifests in any of the cartoons. It's one of those tropes that seems like it's really sort of like a gross oversight or some kind of thing that we, the audience, have to ignore. But in this movie, they actually find a way to work around that trope. The fact that this is a universe different from the MCU. And this world that they are part of, it's not just, the Fantastic Four, they're not just heroes. They're kind of like a symbol that has kind of united the world. And that unity is really important. That's not just an afterthought. It comes into play much later on in the movie. And that's kind of where I'm leading into what happened with Galactus. Because yes, Galactus is in this movie. He was already shown in the trailers. And yes, he is not a giant cloud. I can't overstate how refreshing that is. The Galactus we see in this movie is amazing. Like, he doesn't look too cartoony, but he doesn't look too out there. He has this big, menacing presence. He feels less just like this big giant robot and more like an actual space god. Like, the way he carries himself, the way his appearance, he looks just like very similar to what he looks like in the comics. He's got the head, he's got the helmet, he's got his giant world ship, and yes, he has the Silver Surfer as his herald. But the fact that he looks like Galactus, the fact that he has the presence of Galactus, that really is a powerful moment, because he represents something that the Fantastic Four have never faced before. Yeah, they can save the world. They can make the world a better place. They can defeat their enemies. But Galactus is something on a whole new level. He is basically, he's not so much he's not a villain, but he is this powerful cosmic force. He's driven only by hunger. That's the only thing that really guides him. He has all this immense power, but he's just so consumed by hunger that there's no getting through to him. Everything he's motivated by, not more beyond just opposing the Fantastic Four, is he's trying to satiate this hunger, and that's where another little spoiler comes in. Baby Franklin Richards enters the picture, because from the beginning of this movie, again, I think having when it starts out, this is when Sue finds out she's pregnant, and that kind of really amplifies the family element of this movie. That's something that other Fantastic Four movies have really not been able to do, because it's an important part of the comics too. It's also an important part of the family nature of the Fantastic Four. But bringing in Franklin Richards, he's also such an important part of the Marvel multiverse, because Franklin Richards, from the earliest days, has always been just this he's a baby, but he possesses this immense power that, we don't. It's not entirely fleshed out in this movie. It's hinted at, definitely. There's a few moments I don't want to spoil where the sheer power of this child is on full display. The fact that Galactus is focused on this child, the fact that Galactus wants this child more so than he wants to consume the world, that really makes the stakes personal. It doesn't just test the Fantastic Four; it also tests the world's trust and love for them, because the fact it really is that the conflict here is very cut and dry. Are you willing to sacrifice one child to save billions of lives? And it's easy to say when you're not part of the family, but if it's your child, it's a child you just gave birth to, a child that you love. How do you make that choice? It is an impossible, gut-wrenching choice, and this is kind of where it tests everyone's loyalty to the Fantastic Four. It earns them some genuine resentment and disdain, but it kind of comes back to their family, when they navigate these sort of things together as a family through thick and thin, and there's a lot of issues that go into how they go about this. And I think this is where also every member of the Fantastic Four, even little baby Franklin himself, they all get a chance to play a major role. Ben Grimm, he gets to show that he can punch things. He's a good fighter, but he's also a hell of a pilot. That comes into play. Johnny Storm, he's not just a pretty boy. He's not just some guy who catches on fire and flirts with pretty girls. He actually plays a part in this movie that only he could have played. Like, there are things that shows a level of polish in this movie that we haven't seen before, because everything each character does in this movie, it feels like something only they could do. There are moments that only Sue could do. There are moments that only Reed could do, and it works for them. It fits their character, and but again, alone, they cannot get around this. They cannot work their way around this. They have to work together. They have to go through this as a family. And when things go right and when things go wrong, and more than a few things go wrong throughout this movie. There's a lot of planning. It's Reed Richards. He always tries to work through problems. You can really see from the very beginning that this is a guy who will think, overthink, consider the worst case scenario, even when he shouldn't. And then he'll try to solve the problem. And but at the same time, he can be somewhat oblivious to what's right in front of him, and that's something more than one person points out. But at the end of the day, those family bonds are stronger than anything Galactus has, and it makes for some very powerful moments that you don't get in a lot of MCU movies. Yeah, there are moments I was not prepared for. I thought I had a good idea of how this was going to play out when I went in, even though I didn't read I avoided spoilers. But there were some moments where I thought, I was like taken aback, like, wow, they really did go there. They really did add some more emotional depth to this movie that I did not expect. And it's also kind of where Julia Garner, who played the Silver Surfer Shalla-Bal. Now that was kind of unexpected, because I know the Silver Surfer has traditionally been Norrin Radd, but Shalla-Bal, she isn't a character from the comics. This isn't a case where where there was a gender swap or anything. Shalla-Bal is a character from the comics, and there are moments in this movie where she kind of seems like this cold, unfeeling monster, but then there are moments where where she really kind of shocks you with how much depth she really has, and the role she ends up playing later on in the movie it's really powerful. It is something that caught me by surprise, but in the best possible way. And I would say that, like, a lot of characters had a chance to shine, but I was most impressed with what happened with Shalla-Bal. Between her and Johnny, they all shined in ways that you have not seen them in other Fantastic Four movies. Even in the comics, you don't always see it. But this movie kind of just made it a point to say these characters aren't just one-trick ponies. They don't just have really narrowly defined traits. They are capable of more than just what they're best known for. And it really, when it all kind of comes together, it's incredible. And also kind of like in the same mold as like the Superman movie before it, this movie is a lot more inspirational and aspirational than other Fantastic Four movies. Like, it's not enough that they save the day. It's not enough that they save the world, because there's really is a sense that they have a great deal of attachment to the people of this world. The people of this world feel a lot more fleshed out than what we see in a lot of other superhero movies. I mean, even more recent MCU movies, even MCU movies going back to Phase 1, you get the sense that the people are just kind of props, that they're just like little pets to save. But in this movie, the people really, as a whole, really do feel like they are kind of an extension of this family, that they all have a certain connection with the Fantastic Four. And it really kind of, it makes that the heroics matter a lot more than expected. And that's something I didn't expect, but I really did like. And there were a few other things that stood out. Herbie, the little robot, I have a feeling he's going to be a big hit for the toys. And even Mole Man showed up, and he actually gets a chance to play a role. I won't spoil what that role is, but it's interesting how they managed to work him into the story. So there's so many things to flesh out. There's so many things in this movie that just work. It is so tightly packed with everything we've been missing from other Fantastic Four movies, and to see it all come together after all this time and after all the commotion over the movie rights it's just very, very satisfying. As someone who has seen pretty much every Fantastic Four movie, and yeah, I'm including the Roger Corman movie, this one feels just complete. It works, and I could not be more pleased with how it worked. And by the way, the post-credit scene, well, there are two of them, but one of them is definitely hits a little harder than others. I don't want to spoil it. I'm sure it's probably already leaked by the time I put this out there, but it will definitely cause some reactions, is probably the best way I could put it. But yeah, Fantastic Four, First Steps. It is the Fantastic Four movie we've all been waiting for. It's more than fantastic. It just feels right. Took a while to get there. Took a while to develop and flesh out, but yeah, I couldn't be more pleased with it. So that's my reaction to Fantastic Four, First Steps. Thank you all very much. This has been another bit of Jack Quick React. So thank you for joining me in my world. And until next time, everyone, take care and stay safe.